I'm Paul Dale, and I'm joined today by David Cameron, leader of the Conservative Party and the leader of Her Majesty's Opposition, Bookie's favourite to be the next Prime Minister. Mr Cameron,
Morning.
If you do become Prime Minister, you're obviously going to have to face dreadful problems with the economy. It's a complete disaster zone. Unemployment is continuing to rise. Government debt is at levels not seen since the 1970s when we had to be rescued by the IMF. It's pretty clear, isn't it, that we're all going to have to pay a lot more in taxes to clear up this mess?
Well, what's clear is we're going to have to take some very tough and difficult decisions, and we first of all need to accept, as you've said, the appalling state that the public finances are in. You know, we are forecast to borrow next year almost twice as much as we were borrowing as a country in the late 1970s when we nearly went bankrupt. That's why the Conservative Party hasn't just talked about cutting the deficit. We've said some of the things that we'll need to do. We think public spending should be bearing the burden rather than tax rises, and we've said let's have a public sector pay freeze for all but the lowest paid workers. Let's change the retirement ages. Let's look at some of the benefits that better off people get, like child tax, like the child trust funds. Things like that make a difference. We've announced those things in advance of an election. It's a big contrast with the government, who frankly have said nothing about this, apart from the fact they're going to pass a law miraculously to cut the budget deficit in half.
It's inevitable, though, isn't it, that these tough decisions that you're going to have to take are probably going to make you quite unpopular. I wonder whether you fear, perhaps secretly, that you might end up simply being a one-term Prime Minister because you've had to take the tough decisions that others in the past wouldn't take.
Well, I'm very clear. We have to take the tough decisions, and we have to try and take the country with us. And that's why we've said in advance of the election, here are some of the things that we'll have to do. I find, as I go around the country, particularly in the West Midlands, where the economy's been hit very hard, I actually find that when you deliver quite a tough message about pay, about pensions, about benefits, about the difficult decisions, people's heads actually nod in agreement because they know we're in a mess. I think it's the government that is currently taking people for fools by pretending we don't have to do difficult things. We do, and people want to be levelled with. And I find when you do that, because what people want to know is we're going to sort out the deficit, we're going to get the economy growing again, and there will be light at the end of the tunnel. But they'll only believe in the light at the end of the tunnel if you describe some of the difficult things we have to do first.
And you're going to cut public spending, are you? I mean, really cut public spending, not just increase it by less than inflation.
No, we have to reduce public spending on departmental programmes. I mean, what's happening next year is the government is actually planning to increase public spending by around 30 billion. A lot of that increase is because of the extra cost of unemployment and because of the extra cost of funding our deficit. But so they ought to be admitting what we've said very clearly is that you have to reduce some of the departmental spending in order to get this under control.
I'm thinking about the likely impact on local government. Councils in the West Midlands are already making plans to try and cut their budgets in advance of government action. What would your advice be to councils at the moment?
Well, the first thing to do is to get rid of the waste, get rid of the bureaucracy. I mean, obviously, as we go through this difficult process, let's start with the things that are easier to do. So in central government, let's get rid of the ID cards, the national database, the regional assemblies, the regional quangos. Those are things that, won't be easy, but at least that's getting rid of waste and bureaucracy. Same in local government. There is a lot of waste. Councils, many run by the Conservatives, are now showing that they can freeze or in some cases even reduce the council tax by doing that. So start with the waste, start with the bureaucracy, but we all have to accept that there will be some painful and difficult things to do as well.